The restaurant was buzzing with laughter, silverware clinking, and the smell of steak and butter in the air. A well-dressed millionaire, Thomas Blake, leaned back in his chair, satisfied after a rich meal. But just as he was about to leave, a frail voice stopped him. "Sir, may I have your leftovers?" He turned and saw a woman, thin, pale, and trembling. Her clothes were worn, her eyes sunken but gentle. Everyone else in the restaurant turned away, pretending not to notice her. But Thomas couldn't, and in that single moment, something inside him shifted. He had no idea that this encounter, one that began with a plate of leftovers, would change his life forever. Hey everyone, welcome to Ripple of Love, where we share true and inspiring stories that remind us how one small act of kindness can create waves that change lives. If this story touches your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Tell us what kindness means to you, because your words might inspire someone else today. And now, let's begin this powerful story of how a single act of compassion turned into a miracle. Thomas Blake was the kind of man people envied. He owned several companies, drove luxury cars, and lived in a mansion that could fit 10 families. But despite all his success, something about his life felt hollow, like a grand piano that looked beautiful but had broken strings inside. He'd made his fortune young, working endless hours, chasing deals, and cutting off anyone who slowed him down. He often told himself, kindness is for people who can't survive the real world. That evening, he sat alone in a fancy restaurant downtown. It was his routine: expensive meals, fine wine, and no company. He liked the control, the silence. But fate had other plans. As Thomas signed his check and reached for his coat, he heard that quiet voice. "Sir, may I have your leftovers?" The voice belonged to a woman who looked to be in her late 30s, though life's hardships had aged her far beyond that. Her hair was messy, her hands trembling, and her eyes, those soft brown eyes, carried both pain and grace. The waiter immediately stepped in, irritated. "Ma'am, you can't bother our guests." But Thomas held up his hand. "It's okay," he said calmly. "Let her talk." The woman looked down, embarrassed. "I'm sorry, sir. I haven't eaten all day. I saw you were leaving and I just thought maybe." Her voice broke for a moment. Thomas didn't speak. He looked at his half-finished steak, the untouched side dishes, the bottle of wine that cost more than what most people earned in a week. He felt something he hadn't felt in years. "Shame." "Sit down," he said softly. The waiter's jaw dropped. "Sir?" I said, "Bring her a fresh plate." "And the same meal I had." The woman's eyes widened. "No, please, I don't want trouble. I just wanted what you were done with." "It's no trouble," Thomas said. "Please, sit." She hesitated, then slowly took a seat across from him. The restaurant fell silent. People whispered. But Thomas didn't care. When her food arrived, she ate carefully, almost nervously, as if afraid someone might take it away. Thomas watched quietly, sipping his wine. After a few bites, he asked, "What's your name?" "Lily," she said, wiping her lips with a napkin. "Lily Harper." He nodded. "How long have you been struggling?" She looked down. "A few months. My husband passed away last winter. He had cancer. We sold everything for his treatment." "But," she stopped, holding back tears. "He didn't make it. And when I couldn't pay rent, I lost my home. I've been living in a shelter since then." Thomas felt a lump in his throat. For the first time in a long time, he didn't have a business answer, a strategy, or a solution. Just silence. "Do you have anyone else? Family?" Lily shook her head. No one laughed. Thomas leaned back, speechless. The world he lived in was filled with deals, contracts, and competition, but hers was a world of survival. "Finally," he said, "you remind me of someone. My mother. She struggled too. Worked 3 jobs so I could go to college." Lily smiled faintly. "She must be proud of you." Thomas hesitated. "She passed before I made it." The table fell quiet again. And in that silence, something unspoken connected them, 2 souls who had both lost, both endured. When Lily finished, she thanked him softly. "You don't know what this means to me. I'll never forget this meal." Thomas looked at her and said, "Meet me here tomorrow. Same time." She blinked. "Why?" He smiled. "Let's call it dinner with a friend." The next evening, Lily returned, this time washed, hairbrushed, and wearing a second-hand dress she'd borrowed from the shelter. Thomas was already waiting. They talked again about life, about hope, about how easily people forget the value of small kindness. Day after day, they met. Thomas learned that Lily once worked as a nurse before her husband's illness. She had dreams of opening a small clinic for low-income families someday. Something in her words reignited a part of him he thought was gone. Purpose. One morning, Thomas visited the shelter where Lily stayed. He saw how cramped and underfunded it was, children sleeping on thin mattresses, volunteers doing their best with almost nothing. That night, he couldn't sleep, but the next day, he called his accountant. "I want to start a foundation," he said. "One that helps people get back on their feet, with housing, jobs, and medical care." Within weeks, the Harper Hope Foundation was born, named after Lily's late husband. When Thomas told her, she broke down in tears. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. He smiled. "Because that day, when you asked for leftovers, I realized I was the one starving." Months passed. The foundation grew fast, volunteers came, donors contributed, and dozens of families found new homes. Lily became its director, using her nursing experience to help others heal not just physically, but emotionally. One evening, at the foundation's first fundraiser, Thomas stood on stage and shared their story. "Kindness," he said, "isn't charity. It's connection. It's seeing another person and saying, 'I could be you.' Because sometimes, the richest people are those who give, not those who keep." As he spoke, Lily stood in the front row, tears streaming down her face. When the audience gave him a standing ovation, Thomas looked right at her. They both knew the miracle wasn't the foundation, or the money. It was what kindness had done to their hearts. From that day on, Thomas and Lily worked side by side, bringing hope to thousands. And though their story began with a simple request for leftovers, it became proof that one act of compassion can feed far more than an empty stomach. It can feed a soul. So the next time you see someone in need, remember this story. You might think you're giving them help, but sometimes, you're giving yourself something even greater: humanity, because kindness doesn't cost a thing. But it can change everything. If this story moved you, share it with someone you love, and don't forget to subscribe to Ripple of Love, where every story reminds us that even the smallest act of kindness can create a ripple that touches the world. Thank you for watching, and remember, your kindness could be someone's miracle today.